what we decide affects all of the people. So I just want to, say that I understand that chapters. I understand that chapters.
I'm Chair, there's a point of privilege.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
All right. Honorable Naabik'íyáti.
Speaker, I sent an email, point of privilege, to the Office of the Controller, and I don't know if she had received the document. So maybe after Kadoshima concludes her comment, maybe Controller could respond. Speaker, apologize.
Okay. Madam Chair, Charles Newman, go ahead, continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. So I just want to say that, with how many people we have at our chapter, are we really offering services to all of the people equally, or are we, just assuming that we are? Because I will advocate for the people. And again, they can be anywhere on the Navajo Nation. I know that issues happen here in Shiprock, but I know that those issues are also the same type of issues that our people are also facing there, facing on the Navajo Nation. High unemployment rate, crime, issues with domestic violence. We have those things happening here, but I also know that that same thing is happening in my neighboring communities as well. So I think now is the question, are we really working for the people? Because we should have had this issue decided, and I think Honorable Eugene So said it best. We should be deciding now. We should be voting. We should have our minds made up at this point. And in all honesty, I think for the chapter funds, because of all of the duplication of services that have been listed, and because there are some chapters who are saying like their hands are tied. And I know Controller did say that some of the chapters have said, okay, we're just not even going to spend that chapter money. We're just going to give it to hardship. I would have asked for just half back. But I think that the 25% that Honorable Slater has presented is really it is reasonable. And I do support it. And I know that it is about, giving to the chapters. If you look at that expenditure plan, there's really only three things that I can think of, and perhaps the Controller can correct me on this, but I feel like the only three things that the chapters can do at this point is purchase wood, coal, pallets, and then maybe purchase food, because everything else, what I'm afraid of, is falls back into that duplication of services. So with that, Speaker, I appreciate the time, and also to my colleagues, and I'm going to continue to advocate that we put more money into the hardship, because again, our people out there need help, and we really need to start moving on in offering this assistance to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you going to raise your point of privilege at this time, Honorable Naabik'íyáti, or not?
Speaker, Chairman, Damon, other Naabik'íyáti committee members, I sent out an email indicating the point of privilege. Mr. Speaker, Chairman, to the Office of the Controller, specifically, I'm sure this will probably answer most of our questions while we're debating this particular legislation. The hardship checks, I believe the Controller is indicating that December will be the month to start distributing the checks, and November to be the time or the month for the whole Navajo Nation, and for the Controller to prepare in putting all the data. So I know the intent of trying to build up the hardship funding, but my point is that why put funding in there knowing that it's not going to be allocated until December? koko e peso chata si ki e a the enda e hishi to chata yos e ki e penti a so penti hardship jo hidden de tolle. Although if the funding is going to be sitting there, how much interest will this particular amount of funding earn? And could that interest also be allocated to the hardship program? Speaker, that's my point of privilege to the Controller's Office.
Point of privilege, Madam Controller. Turn it over to you.
Okay. Auto speaker, auto Shinaliki delegate Key Allenbigay, Queen Naabik'íyáti. So I did just get your email. I think your first question is distributing hardship assistance check. So the way this will work is we're compiling all of the applications. So kareya paper, so we'll open it up with the online application. So all that month to get we're accumulating all those requests. Those applications are essentially requests. So in order for us to give out checks, and we have to estimate depending on the response of everyone. So although so depending on how many people apply and what their requests are, my guess is every person will request the maximum. So we don't really know what that is. If it's 100% of that 327,726 that Vital Records gave us, in order to hand out checks at some point in time, we need, if all of them respond and they say, I have a need of 1,500 and 500, then in order to do something like that, we're talking about a $400 million distribution. If it's 75%, if we get about 285,000 people to respond, then we need about 300 million. As it is right now with 49 million, if we have 49 million and about 285 people respond and they apply, adults will get $250 and minors will get $83. So that's how it works. So because we don't know what the funding looks like, we can't just issue checks because then it's not fair and equitable. So that's why we have an application period. So if we close the application period in November 30th, then then we can sit here and say, okay, we can declare a payment, and then we'll know the amount that we can give to every applicant that met the requirement. So, Ado ebe ata husband no sheya ado konda isneliki requested a lagi a bishop khana nelo sheya ado be ata husband and I would say that in December. So we said November 30th. If there's a way to post to keep the application period open, we accounted for that as well. But at some point in time in the first or second week of December, we're hoping that we know these numbers. And that's when we can say connect depending on the application request amount, and then what is available for funding the hardship. So as it is now, if we have a 75% response, which is around 285,000 of our people, and our assumption is about 30% of them are minors, we're estimating that those payments will look like $250 to adults and $83 to minors. That's how it works. So your other question regarding the debate on Naabik'íyáti, we have, from the day these payments were made by Treasury and they turned it over into our bank account, we immediately put into the money market. According to the rules, those are allowed. You have to put them in a liquid account that's government-backed securities. So we did that. So far to date, as of yesterday, what we have earned on these CARES funds is $283,382.07. So that's not allocated, although OMB made us put a budget in, and the business unit that's there, we put an estimate of what we think it will earn. So, and a lot of it, there's a lot of things that go into how much we think it will earn. In part is how we're spending it. So the estimate is around 400,000, but as I said, as of yesterday, it's $283,382.07. So it is earning interest, and if monies are not being expended, if it's all sitting in our account, and it has been, then it's earning interest. So and the interest, as of, I don't believe there's any resolutions or anything about the interest as well. The interest itself has to be spent just like the CARES, all the rules around CARES, so it has to be spent in the same manner. So that was your number 2 and 3 questions, was about the interest. So I think those are the 3 questions.
Point of privilege, Speaker.
Hey, thank you. That point of privilege. Go ahead.
Speaker David and Chairman Henia. Chairman, Naabik'íyáti Committee. I think every time I hear fair and equitable, I think we shouldn't be using that term at all, because we already segregated how these funds would be used. It's not fair and equitable because we put in a clause in there. It says elderly, handicapped, and special needs first. And therefore, what's happening is we have young families, maybe a 2-parent family that has experienced a loss of income, or a single parent under the age of 50 to be safe. They're being told, you don't qualify. Then what, they're going? We only need elderly and special needs and handicapped. So that's not fair and equitable. I want to make that point so we can start using that term. Thank you, Speaker Damon.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Henia. With that, I guess I would just recommend utilizing terms not only to internally but externally as well. So thank you, Honorable Chairman Henia, for that. Colleagues.
Speaker, Speaker, can I clarify?
Yes, you
Can I
can, Madam Chair.
clarify my usage?
Yes, go ahead.
When I say fair and equitable, I mean in terms of giving everyone a fair chance to apply. So that is the reason why there's an application time frame. So it's giving everyone a chance to apply for the hardship assistance. So I hope that's clarifying my usage. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Right, colleagues, moving on back to the queue. Chairman Nez on Amendment 1.
Thank you very much, Speaker Damon. I was nan Anna Senegi. I used nan Atida, but Honorable Daniels and then Mark Honorable Freeland. Chapters based of a Chahadea, but not a sheet clean. We really want water and electricity for our people. And we wanted this money to go directly to them. But Jason John, if you want to take it back as leaders, it's up to you and you don't. I hope we're not doing that to our people. I support Jason's work and water resources there, as well as NTUA, what they can accomplish for our people. Let's give them time. Actually, we were on the radio station. If we take these monies back, I have to go to the radio station and tell them I lied to you. Based on its but you're such a bench, as a bit of dish. That's in Hikihodesh, a fish monster on Philip Kihodesh, a lot of the sister. A quaggy ishitish, Araban, Siskesco. The Hunde, the Nehiki, which in Hodor, Nehiki, out 8 chapters, check Asian Chilados, into on Soban, Siskes, on Hinsta, on the top. Later, these today, able Yanahat, Naabik'íyáti, hot ocean, hot our daily ocean. Could it hold just? We're running out of time. I really feel bad for Martin DeGay and Parks and Rec. They had their documents submitted to Office of the Controller, and they've been waiting for their POs and number to be issued to them. And that could have been so it's on a $100 master. And I know we need to move forward and act and somehow give this hardship money to people directly. But let's do it right, Snant. What the heck about this? Just my concern, and I'm just making a comment. So, thank you.
Thank you. With that, moving on down. Honorable Stewart, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues, Naabik'íyáti committee members, Naabik'íyáti. I want to just make a comment, Chair. I do not support this legislation because as a delegate, I work with the chapters as well. And I've seen a lot of chapters within not only the 4 that I represent, but the district and also the agency that have, like was stated earlier, young families, single families, middle-aged families that are living in practically unlivable homes with maybe only one wall. These are where the funds need to go to these families through the chapter to help them assist so that we can get those families into decent homes. There was a time back when DCD had a housing service program where they built homes for community members. Then that was gone. That program no longer exists, but it needs to be brought back because I have seen these families. I've taken pictures on their behalf to share with the chapters to say, hey, this is what we need to do. This is where these funds need to go. And knowing that we have limited staff everywhere, even NQA, NECA, they have limited staff. Water resources, they have limited staff. But to help them out, we have the private contractors on the side. So to reach out to them and say, okay, NQA, NECA, water resources, where's your contractor? Who can we put in here that is going to be certified and qualified to do these jobs? That's what I was recommending to these chapters to do, so that they can proceed as they spend these money to, again, make some type of job for laborers, people with limited experience to go and with a certified person and say, this is how you do it. This is how it needs to be done. Not only just the PEP workers, but also the families themselves to contribute to that. And so these families have been anxiously waiting when I go see them at their homes, take pictures of their homes and take it back to their chapters, explain the process to them. Like Shana Rick said, it's going to make us out to be liars and say, hey, I'm sorry, we can't. We want to pull this back. So I'm not in that boat. I want to see how far the chapters can go because I know the chapters can do it. All these chapters can prove themselves and step up to the plate, including the chapter officials themselves. And that's just what I want to say. So thank you. Going back on mute.
Thank you, Humble Stewart. Moving on down on the queue. Humble Chairman Yazzie.
Speaker and members of the council, and to all who are listening here, the amending party, in which I want to just let my colleagues know that I'm going to vote red for this. We heard a lot of comments, my colleagues, about the chapter spending. We hear a lot on social media and just the media overall and what's going on with the funding. When I hear all this, and I would just sit back and think, and I would say, all this confusion, questions would be eliminated only if we could communicate with leader to leader. And I've been saying this, maybe I should, try and give it a shot for nomination president. And in my campaign, I'd say my vice president is going to stay with council and be with council to work as a team. But it is everyone that is at fault with the confusion, even myself. Out of the 14 years being thankful in the council, I have seen where presidents would say, council, yes, we don't agree with each other, but let's sit down and talk this over. What do you need, council? Council, president, what do you need? So when the legislation comes, we would all be on the same page and just vote in favor to move on. We have other tribes that I look at, smaller tribes, and they do this exact same thing. They're all done spending their CARES Act. All our staff, including the controller, all of us are stressing because we keep setting guidelines, if you will. And we're not even giving the chapters a chance to spend the fundings, but yet we're starting to set restrictions back on them. And I know I hear the controller saying that there's a lot of guidelines. We should be talking about how do we ease up the guidelines so these chapters can spend the funding. Our numbers are going back up, my colleagues. As of today, 130 cases on the nation. And then New Mexico, 1,300 approximately. These fundings, every time, the chapters are ready, but it's the guidelines. And I do understand we have to have guidelines. And I'm just pleading with the council, the staff and division directors, and even with us, are trying so hard to make this happen. But the more we do in changing the system, the slower the people are going to get their funds. And so I'm pleading with my colleagues, and I hope the president's staff are listening. Maybe Liza, Vice President, or maybe President Nez. I know all of my colleagues are listening. I'm not going to give up in trying to make things happen for the nation, to work together, to talk together, so it'll benefit the Navajo people. But with this amendment that I see here, it's just putting another layer on another layer on another layer. Let the division directors go to work and spend the fundings for their chapters. And I say that in a very nice way. When we're already taking money away, it's like we give our children, grandkids, allowances, and we say we want it back, or you can't spend it here, or you can't spend it on that. So my colleagues, I know we've talked about this. I can't make the motion to seize debate because this is Naabik'íyáti. And so I would just ask that we but have the division directors and the staff continue to work in what they have already started when we pass the legislation for the CARES Act. Today, we heard so many people that has been denied the hardship funding within the areas that I represent. But again, that comes back to the communication part. All we're doing is just going on Facebook, and some of the people are saying negative comments, and of course we have to deal with that. But a small percentage, if we just could get together, leader to leader, with no attorneys, like I keep saying, and talk this over. And after we talk, pour the coffee on the open fire and go back to our camps and say, this is what we talked about. This is what we agreed on. And when the action has to take place, then it'll run smooth. Speaker, on the amendment, I'm going to vote against it. And so I'll leave it at that. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Ivey. Question of privilege, Chairman Henia.
Delegate Begay.
Honorable Begay.
Yeah. Speaker, thank you. I didn't know a song like my brother Henia. Speaker, my point of question of privilege is on this amendment. I haven't seen the email on the amendment. Does it say that we'll have to get the fundings from the chapters, the allocation, the $90 million? Are we talking about that?
Yeah, we're talking about $23 million of that funding. Chapter disbursement expenditure plan approved in CS-73-20 in the amount of $23 million. So this would be taking $23 million away from that $92 million and put that towards hardship. Honorable Alma Brigade. But it also has other amendments in there too as well. Taking $4.7 million from power lines, 3.4 from broadband, 379,000 from the care packages, $87.9 million from the water projects, and transferring those dollars all to the hardship expenditure plan on by Alma Brigade.
Thank you.
Hey, colleagues, I don't have anybody else in the queue. Are we ready to vote on Amendment 1?
Chair. Thomas Walker.
Vice Chair Walker, go ahead.
Chair, so I want to raise a question of privilege to get information on the amendment in reference to the 23 million plus dollars being taken from the chapter distribution fund. Have we received information or like the spreadsheet listing all the chapters and what the allocation was, and then what the allocation would be minus the 23 million from the overall $90 million that council allocated and president signed into law? I'd like that document to see, as we all say, we're very visual oriented. We need to see what the heck. So I want to make that request, Chair. This is my question of privilege, Sean. Thank you.
Question of privilege, Honorable Slater or Madam Controller, is there a document pertaining to the amount of $23 million and where that is coming from the 92 million?
Jacob, this is Delegate Slater. I defer to the controller. I'm responding to that.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Slater. Madam Controller?
I believe I'm only going by what Vice Chair Slater said earlier. And we can run the numbers, but right now we don't have any numbers. If I'm just going off of what was said before, it's 25% off the respective allocations. And we can run the numbers if you want.
Okay. So there is no document at hand right now, though.
Chair. Thomas Walker again. So that's my question of privilege, asking for information. In this case, a document that shows the 25% reduction in the chapter distribution fund. Because I'd like to know what I'm voting on in reference to that chapter distribution fund. If there's a reduction, then I'd like to know that's what I'm voting on. And then I have to answer to the chapters and to my constituents in that way. So that again, that's my question of privilege. I don't mean to just throw that in there, but it makes sense to me because of all the concerns that were raised and questions that were asked. It seems like we really need to know what we're looking at. This change, just reversion of funding or repurposing of funding for aid. So I appreciate the response, and I appreciate the document given to committee members here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walker.
Speaker.
As indicated, Madam Controller, I guess the question is there a document? And at this time, I believe there is no document, correct?
Yes. We don't have a document yet. So.
Right, so Vice Chair Walker, there's actually no document at this time.
Okay, so
Do we need like half an hour to get those documents? I'd like to, this is my question of privilege. Otherwise, I'd have to vote red. Nanta. Thank you.
Okay.
Speaker, Delegate So.
Honorable Otto So.
Yes, thank you very much, Speaker. And I do.
Wait, Honorable Otto So. Do you wanting to speak on Amendment 1?
Yes.
Is there anybody else in the queue? No. Okay, go ahead. Honorable Otto So. I thought there might be somebody else.
I thank you very much. That's the reason why I really thought about the water projects expenditure plan. And we know we have an official document from Jason John saying that he cannot expend a certain amount of the dollars that was allocated. And that was $40,961,416, and he put his name on it, and he vouched for it. And the rest in between from about 41 million to 87, that difference there, I believe it was just pulled out of the sky. And I think if the sponsor does not amend the water project, the amending project does not amend the water line expenditure plan down to $40,961,416, because that's backed up with data and backed up with Mr. Jason John's professional opinion. So if it's not amended to that amount, I'm going to vote against this, and I'll be aligned with the other delegates that will be voting red here. And I don't that the chapter also, the chapter plan, it's ridiculous. You need to take out the chapter also. Other than that, I will be voting red. For many hours. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Okay, colleagues, are we ready to vote then on this? I don't have anybody else.
Speaker, star. I was on mute. Daniel So wants to say something.
Sherman Daniel So. Go ahead.
Good evening. The system had me on mute, and I did the star. So
I know how you feel.
I'm in line with voting red on this because this seems like the second surge is coming, has arrived. Chairman Edmund Yazzie said today's positives were 130 on the Navajo Nation. And to be taking money away from Department of Health right at this time. The other is she went down the list, Dr. Jill Jim went down the list, and I don't know if anybody, wrote down the numbers where there was pending POs or PRs and contracts. The same with Mr. Jason John. So in view of those things, I don't see this amendment certainly can come back as a new legislation at November 15th. So in that aspect, then this is I'll fall in line with my colleagues, and the way I'm figuring is that 23% reduction on the average of my 8 chapters is going to be more than $200,000 that's going to be reduced by, and in that case, I can't support the amendment. And so that is the extent of my statement, and thank you for allowing me this time, colleagues.
Okay, thank you. That ready to vote? for the total? Okay.
Chair,
Hold on, we got you there. Madam Chair,
Chairman,
Naabik'íyáti. Who is that?
this is Vice Chair Smith. I'd like to say a couple things.
Vice Chair Smith, you're in queue. Madam Chair, Naabik'íyáti, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, colleagues. Speaker, I just want to do a time check. It is 7 o'clock. If we could take our staff into consideration, colleagues, while Vice Chair Walker did ask for a breakdown, so it might be a good time to either get that information before we cast our vote. I would like to ask Dr. Jill Jim if she's on the line, and I have always supported the initiatives from the Department of Health in terms of them commanding, the health command, the UUSB allocation, and making sure that they had what they need. But what I'm concerned about, Speaker, and I want to ask Dr. Jill Jim, is what is the plan for Northern and Eastern agencies with your CARES allocation? It's very focused on the Chinle ASC efforts, and it's very focused in the central part of the nation. And I have yet to see any real plans on how they could address communities impacted in Shiprock, in Sheep Springs, Sohatchee area, Crown Point, Yambato, and I am concerned that when I asked this question maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, the response were, we'll rely on Gallup and Farmington services, but we have Navajos living here east of the Tushkai Mountain who need the attention of Navajo Nation, Office of the President, Vice President, and the Health Command Center. So I'd like to have that question answered, Speaker, because what I think is, although if this funding is going to be encumbered, there's really no way that we can be transparent in how this is being spread across Navajo Nation. I received an update on the cistern projects, and they're just allocated like in 4 areas, 4 areas across the Navajo Nation. And that's why I support the chapter allocation, because at least we can get these micro relief efforts happening here on the ground, but being, knowing that there's time sensitivity. So I'd like to ask Dr. Jill Jim that, and I would need that in writing to provide to my district so that we could keep the health center accountable and seeing what staging areas and what type of care will be provided here east of the Tushkai. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Naabik'íyáti, is that those questions are directed at Dr. Jill Jim, correct?
Yes, Dr. Jill Jim, because that affects this amendment, because it's that funding that's being proposed to be reallocated to hardship. So I'm debating if the Department of Health is going to meet the needs of my people, or then I'll vote to give it directly to them so that they could take care of themselves. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, well, Madam Chair, Naabik'íyáti, will probably have to wait a little bit because Dr. Jill Jim is speaking right now on one of the president's town halls. So as soon as she gets done with that, then I can have her come back over this way.
Thank you, Speaker.
With that, moving on down.
Speaker.
Mr. Smith. Yes, someone speaking?
I'm sorry, Speaker. I was just going to ask you really quickly. Maybe this is a question of privilege. Actually, I apologize, Honorable Raymond Smith, for cutting in. The document that Honorable Thomas Walker is asking for. Can I just ask how long it's going to take for that amount to be presented to us? Because I think that there might be some confusion that every chapter has to give up 25%. or is it a total 25% for the total amount and then breaking down by chapters? So I'm also curious to find out when that document will be completed. Thank you, Speaker.
Commissioner Privilege, Madam Controller, that document, or if there is going to actually be a document.
Speaker, we weren't actively working on anything until now, and we're communicating to see what the intent was. And we're also looking at the original calculations, the 50-50 formula, and we're trying to figure out if there's a working document to go off of. And then also working with Vice Chair Slater on what the intent was. So that's what we're doing right now.
So, Madam Controller, is there a time frame, or is there, and you're just starting that now and working together with everybody else? Is that something that's going to be done this evening, or is that something that's going to be done till tomorrow, or is that something that's not even, or that's not going to be provided?
Speaker, we just started. If we had to do it, it will take an hour, right? So we just got this right now.
Point of privilege.
Point of privilege.
Also.
Honorable Otto So, go ahead. Point of privilege.
If the document has not been provided or has not even been developed, why is it in this amendment? I'm gonna vote green on. I'm gonna vote red on this thing. Oh, yeah, Hassan. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Let me go back to the panel queue. Vice Chair Smith, floor is yours on Amendment 1.
Point of order, Kealan.
Okay, point of order, Kealan Begay.
Speaker, Chairman, Naabik'íyáti committee members, there has been precedent that if there's no document available on any of these amendments, usually it is ruled out of order. Because we're kind of like putting the controllers on the spot to make it sound that the controller's office is the one that's recommending the reduction of all these funding to the chapter. It should be the responsibility of the motioning party. Speaker.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, with that, let me go back to the sponsor. Honorable Slater.
Thank you, Speaker. I think it's pretty clear from the way that the amendment's written is that there would be a 25% reduction, and the way that was initially distributed was using the 50-50 formula. So you just do 0.25 times the allocations that your chapters have received, and that information has been distributed. So there's really no reason to have a whole separate breakdown or anything to that effect. Definitely wasn't required. Ledge Council, OOC, everyone else reviewed it. So, I guess if people are incapable of doing that, then it's at your discretion, Speaker.
Colleagues.
Point of order, Speaker. Kealan.
Honorable Kealan Begay.
Speaker, point of order. It's not a matter of the council not doing the math. It's a matter of accuracy and getting the official documents to the council as a legislator of the Navajo Nation government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, there is no document on the chapter distribution, as there is no document on the CARES package, as there is no document on the broadband, as there is no document on the power line. The only one I've seen a document on is the water projects, but this is not something that's new, that's taking precedence when we had documents that when we were debating the CARES Act throughout the summer, or even on negotiating process, expenditure plans do not need additional documents or budget forms. So at this time, this amendment is still in order, colleagues. So with that, I'm moving on down the line. Vice Chair Smith, the floor is yours on Amendment 1.
Thank you, Speaker, or Chair Smith. I was going to ask where the amendment was, but all that time with you guys talking, I found it. So that's just basically where I'm catching up. My question goes to the sponsor of this legislation. So on this page 4 of line 6, A, B, C, D, E, and F are still in place. Is that how this amendment's going to go? I know we're going to vote. So if that's the question, I'd like to have clarified. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. Yes. A, B, C, E, and F. The only one that's out of there is D, healthcare facilities, for $25.8 million. Every other one of them is still in this amendment, Vice Chair Smith.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, now I have Dr. Let me go back. Dr. Jill Jim, you're on the line?
Yes, Speaker.
I don't know if you were able to hear Madam Chair Amber Crotty's question, were you? Or maybe one of your staff brief you?
I did get a text from Donovan. Amber, Shema, you were asking about the plan for Northern and Eastern Agency regarding CARES Act allocation. That would be the question. I can respond to that. Speaker.
Yes, go ahead.
Damon, 24th Council, and Shema, thank you for asking that question. The allocation for CARES Act for the Navajo Nation, the Department of Health, the response for a lot of the emergency response, I don't know if this is the same question you asked before regarding isolation areas. There is an allocation, or there is a standby mode for isolation for Farmington and Gallup and for a third. So that is currently in our contract for with our isolation / alternate care site allocation. Today, as I have shared with others today, our new numbers for today on the town hall, we reported 130 new cases. We have not hit 130 cases in a very long time. 130 new cases. Most of those cases are in Tuba City, Winslow, Chinle, and Crown Point area, which includes the 3 satellite clinics. With that amount of increase, I don't even know, it's somewhat even community spread. Contact tracing will probably be very difficult, as we don't have the capacity to do contact tracing for 130 new cases, as I mentioned before. So that's where we're at, Speaker, regarding the allocation. I just wanted to share the new case count for today at 130 new cases. I can't.
Thank you, Dr. Jill Jim. That.
Victor.
That. Elmer Begay. Is that you?
Yes, Speaker. Yeah, this is Elmer. Speaker.
What is the will
thank you for
of Elmer Begay?
Speaker, good evening, other members of the Naabik'íyáti committee, and other Jim. Thank you for responding back, I think Speaker, I know I set a question to the earlier report from Dr. Jim regarding the traditional healing. Okay? So I wanted to ask her today, Dr. Jim. So what do you? How much funds do you still need for traditional healing? Because I know that people where I live, there's some traditional healers that I associate with them mostly um, um, all the time. So they wanted to know how they can go about it, if there's any application that is available now, or do we have to use the same portal application on the hardship assistance? And they wanted to know that if there's still any funds that are still left for that. If there is, if there's none, then how much do you still need? I know that Friday to tomorrow is there might be a deadline for that. Can you elaborate more on it, Speaker? Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, Dr. Joe Jim, are you still on the line?
Yes, Speaker.
Hey, there's a floor. I'll give you the floor.
Okay. Jag är non-speaker Damon and Ados Che Elmer Begay kaya di non Leidens Kidigi the traditional healing kaya beso kaya di kaya approve beyond the $2 million and a dot na kida the more that is made on a kaya by a day till it has. I mean, Kushi quid the skin go a credit but the legal credit hardship dollars is setting the OC the consultants credit by a day go credit said that they need that they know how the hardship because the I did we can extend those dollars with their existing system that they know credit we agreed on that and we planned on that, and I guess I missed that BNF meeting for that option was taken off the hardship application. That was the best solution to get hardship dollars out without competing with the regular hardship applicants. And I think that was the same for the scholarship, because the portal at that time, the idea was for the consultants for Baker Tilly and OOC to have better control of duplicate applications, and then also not expending additional resources for the programs to expend those dollars, since that's what they were allocated for, to assist traditional healing or students. Now I have to, the $2 million is where it's still at. And I'm going to have to figure out either if we need, I did ask and inquire about adding it to the electronic portal, but I think that's already have been developed, and I think it might be too late. So one of the reasons why we didn't contract with the different associations was they're all different, and they had different proposals, and we wanted to make sure that the hardship dollars were paid out first before we were able to use it for other needs. And then such as PPE, like controller indicated, it's a lot of accountability and making sure we are encouraging individuals to not misuse funds, and the nation will be responsible for that if the entities don't use it properly. And I think that was kind of the fear as far as I know when we were trying to figure out if we wanted to contract with them or not. So that might be the next solution right now. If we can't add them, and it's too late to add the hardship assistance for the traditional practitioners, the roadmen, and the NAs, the roadmen, and also the pastors for $1,500. I'm back practically starting back from scratch, as we had made those decisions and we had made agreements with the associations, and we had agreed with OOC that would be the best strategy to go forward. Now, so now I'm going to have to go back and work with OOC to figure out what the most efficient process would be to encumber those dollars. But they're not being discussed here. But that's my next plan. My backup plan was to have those conversations and to do the contracts with the associations, and that means doing all of these 164 processes again. And there's also the population where they're not affiliated and you can't verify membership. And so that's where I'm at, Chiche, on that. The $2 million that we are inquiring about. Right now, I can't really say if that's enough or not, but because that first plan did not go through, I'm going to have to go back to Plan B to possibly contract with the associations to disseminate the funds as my backup. So thank you, Speaker, and Chiche for asking that question. Yeah.
Thank you. Back, colleague. I don't have anybody else in the queue. No one else. Are we ready to vote on Amendment 1?
Yes.
Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. The board on Amendment 1.
Honorable Elmer Begay.
I vote red.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes red. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Kellen Begay Jr. votes red. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes red. Honorable Paul Begay.
Question of privilege.
Delegate Paul Begay votes.
While we're voting, question of privilege.
I apologize, Delegate Begay, for interrupting your vote. I just wanted to ask Legislative Council, my question is, the resolution for the allocation, is it
Hold on, colleagues, hold on, Madam Chair. Can you please mute your phones?
Yes, I apologize for disrupting the vote. But I did want to ask, for the chapter allocation, the language states any funding November 30th automatically gets reverted to hardship. Thank you.
Speaker, this is Chief Legislative Counsel. I think that was directed to me, but Delegate Crotty broke up, and I didn't quite understand it. Here's the whole question.
Madam Chair, can you repeat your question?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. My phone it's done. 12 hours of meetings. I think we fried it. But my question is, chapter CARES funding, does that language automatically reallocate unspent money on November 30th to the hardship? Thank you.
Delegate Cruddy, I'm not sure exactly how to answer that question. Currently, Delegate Slater's amendment does not do any reallocations as of December 30th. You're probably aware that I prepared a
amendment, a proposed amendment for Delegate Gay that probably addresses what you're talking about. But as far as I know, it's not in front of Nabi right now. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Madam Chair, and because you speak your name in that was just a recommended language that Honorable Keon Begay stated that he'd come back to later on after everyone has spoken towards the end of the discussion, that you would probably post that amendment later on. So I guess we're good while we're voting. Go ahead, continue on.
Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay votes red.
Honorable Paul Begay votes red. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes red.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes red. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Knazba Crotty. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
I vote red.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes red. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Red.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes red. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes red.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes red. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Henyo votes red.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes red. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate Vince James votes red. Thank you.
Honorable Vince James votes red. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes red.
Honorable Rick Nez votes red. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Red.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes red. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Red.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes red. Honorable Charlene Stowe.
I vote red.
Honorable Charlene Stowe votes red. Honorable Daniel Stowe.
Daniel So votes red.
Honorable Daniel Stowe votes red. Honorable Eugene Stowe. Honorable Otto Stowe.
I vote red.
Honorable Otto Stowe votes red. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker votes red.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes red. Honorable Edison Wanika.
Red.
Honorable Edison Wanika votes red. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Red.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes red. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote red.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes red. Honorable Amber Knazba Crotty.
Delegate Amber Knazba Crotty will vote red. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Knazba Crotty will vote red. Honorable Eugene Stowe.
I vote red. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene Stowe votes red. Speaker, with a vote of 2 yeas and 21 nays, Speaker not voting.
Thank you, colleagues. 2 in favor, 21 opposed. Sharon not voting, motion fails. That, colleagues, to go back to the main motion.
Motion to recess.
There's a motion to recess.
Second the motion.
Who was that motion? I don't know who.
Oh, you're Slater.
The motion, Honorable Slater, motion to recess. Honorable Slater, is there a second? Honorable Eugene So. If colleagues, if this we would come back to legislation 0261-20 if this recess passes, and we would start again tomorrow at 10 a.m. In the morning. Honorable colleagues, on the main motion. And on the main motion, let me see who's the lineup over here. On the main motion, I only have next individual is Honorable Otto So and Honorable Keon Begay.
Speaker, I texted to be on the queue as well.
Madam Chair Charles Newman. With that,
and Eugene So on the queue.
Motion to recess. Any discussion on motion to recess? There's none. 7:24 p.m. Went once, went twice, went 3 times. Clear board on recess motion.
Honorable Elmer Begay.
I vote green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen votes green.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay votes red.
Honorable Paul Begay votes red. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes red.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes red. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes red.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes red. Honorable Amber Canesba Crotty.
Delegate Amber Canesba Crotty will vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canesba Crotty votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
I vote green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Red.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes red. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Green votes red.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes red. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate Vince James votes red.
Honorable Vince James votes red. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes red.
Honorable Rick Nez votes red. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So.
I vote green.
Honorable Charlene So votes green. Honorable Daniel So.
Daniel So votes red.
Honorable Daniel So votes red. Honorable Eugene So.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So.
So they chant it there, yeah, I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker votes green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Winika.
Green.
Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Red.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes red. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote red.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes red. Speaker with a vote of 13 yeas and 10 nays. Speaker not voting.
13 in favor, 10 opposed. Motion carries. Speaker not voting. That, colleagues, we are officially recessed at 7:24. Have a good evening, everyone. See everyone here, or roll call at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Honorable Slater.
What's going on?
Honorable Slater.
Good night, Cecilia.
Good night, John Boy.
Okay.